Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video on the UFL. We're going to do a quick breakdown of everything here today going into week 7. We are well on our way to the playoffs, which I'm excited for to see all these games. I actually got to see a little bit more of these games this week. Actually pretty fire games this week, at least from the two that I mostly saw. Did see a couple that there was a couple like games and blowout games, but we'll talk about it here in a second. But before we get started, please leave a subscribe. Please subscribe down below and leave a like down below and comment any suggestions for future videos below. All of this is below, by the way, if you didn't know. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. So on screen, you're going to see the quick conference breakdown. And I just really want to talk about something real quick, guys. Okay, actually, as you see the XFL conference, sure, you got the Arlington Renegades, who are 0-6, which it sucks. I thought they would be way better. They've had some close games, but beside the point. Which I mean, makes my power rankings a little controversial. Beside the point, we'll get to that in a second. Then we got DC Defenders, Brahmas, and Battlehawks, all about, you know, one win from the next one up, so it's pretty cool. Battlehawks are leading, which is pretty good. Brahmas have been pretty consistent, while the DC Defenders have been a little disappointing at a 500 record, so that sucks. But then you get the USFL. The Stallions are 6-0, great. The Michigan Panthers are 4-2, and then there's a 3-win difference between the Showboats and the Roughnecks, meaning if the Panthers win their next game and the Showboats lose their next game, and so do the Roughnecks, USFL is already fucking concluded. The Memphis Showboats and Roughnecks can just go home in week 7 when there's 3 more weeks of games left. Meaning, I guess they're just fighting over 1 seed. Even then, Stallions have a pretty good lead on that, so shrug. And the Arlington Renegades are out pretty much. I mean, I guess technically Brahmas could lose and Renegades could win and they'd be fine, but still weird. Beside the point, let's get into the recap of the games. Stallions versus Memphis Showboats. Actually, surprisingly enough, this was a fun game to watch. I did watch this because I'm trying to get into the Showboats because I'm from Tennessee, so I might as well, you know, kind of watch my team and see, you know, what my hometown or home state team does. And I guess much as it sucks seeing them get absolutely obliterated, it was very entertaining. The Stallions were putting up points like nothing else. Martinez, good God, him and McCarron are just like so freaking good. The run game from the Stallions actually isn't as good this week. They really aren't as amazing as I probably have boasted them up to be. Showboats have never really have a good run game, and there was some, even though the yardage from both these Cookis Case and Troy Williams was a little low, it's actually some entertaining plays by them, as well as some entertaining run plays from the Showboats this week as well. Receiving yards, I mean, I'm not really going to get into all these receivers and all that good stuff, but it's pretty well distributed on the Showboat side, while Kevin over here on the Stallion side seems to be one of their best targets. Defensive-wise, I mean, to be honest with you, not as big numbers as you think. Three sacks and 2 tackles for loss, and 1 sack and 2 tackles for loss. It was just a good offensive game, good offensive showing. I think even from the Showboats, they performed well against a good Stallions defense, but it was clearly one game, or one person's game for most of it, but it was still really entertaining to watch. The Roughnecks versus St. Louis Battlehawks. This one, again, I saw highlights for this one, but it seemed like it was pretty much all Battlehawks in the first half, and then Roughnecks kind of got back into it in the second half with some stat lines, but beside the point, looking at the stats here, Roughnecks did not do much of anything, while McCarron is just consistently fucking good, is all I can say. Really, there's no run game. Like, it feels like they either have a really good run game, a really consistent run game, or they have nothing. So it's kind of a weird thing in here in the UFL. Then you got the receiving, of course. Hakeem Butler continues to be the #1 option there in Battlehawks, which is no surprise because when you see some of the plays he makes, fucking amazing as a tight end, just saying. Justin Hall, also pretty talented, but he's just working with nothing there. Then you got defense. And I remember this one, it wasn't really a big defensive week. Granted, 5 tackles for loss and 6 tackles for loss, still pretty good, but no sacks really, not really much pressures from these teams. It just felt like a drag of a game at some point, especially in the beginning, or especially in like the second quarter, third quarter thing. It just seemed like nothing really happened with the Roughnecks. Roughnecks just really couldn't get into this game. Then you had a really awesome game with the Arlington Renegades and the Panthers. And I swear, I promise you guys, I'm not biased for the Renegades. I promise. But damn, sometimes they just look so good. Like, I know, like, the stat line's not great, but they just had some fun plays. They're a fun team to root for. I don't know why they can't get anything going, because, I don't know, the Renegades were more entertaining to watch than the Panthers. And the Renegades defense is more, you know, awesome to watch than the Panthers. I don't know what happened. Renegades almost had this game, blew it away. Beside the point, not really going to talk about that. But the Panthers, I don't know, they have a good run game. I'll give them that. Receiving yards are pretty even across the board. Renegades have Sal Canella, which I don't really know who that is, but they were doing fine. They were fun to watch. It was a fun little skits to see everything. And I swear the defense from Renegades did way better. 3-5, a little bit better stat line than those other games, but the Panthers just didn't do anything much there. So in terms of sacks and tackles for loss. So Panthers won it. They won it pretty well, but I mean, it doesn't really help their case that they lost 2-0 or they barely won against an 0-5 team at this point. Don't think so. Either way, I still like the Renegades. They were still fun. And the game that was probably the worst of the week. I mean, I guess maybe Houston and St. Louis might be able to take it, but I think DC Defenders and Brahmas is pretty much all defense. Because as you see, no passing yards from either one of these teams. DC Defenders on offense have disappointed me. Granted, their run game is fucking awesome. I love the DC Defenders run game, probably the best in the league. But I mean, when they put up stat lines like this, and on the Brahma side of things, I keep on forgetting that I have to like go away from close panel. Either way, John Lovett is fucking amazing. I mean, they give him the ball a lot too. They don't really trust Dormady Quintons, which is valid. So if the Brahmas make the playoffs, they better hope that fucking John Lovett is fucking healthy, because they're feeding this guy like Derrick Henry, 6.7 yards on average for 23 attempts. Fucking awesome. He doesn't normally look like this, which is why I thought that even with a stat line from Darius Haggins here, I don't know. It just was a weird thing to say. Either way, receiving nothing really except Kevin Harmon being the #1 target there. Again, working with not much there with Jordan Taumumu, I guess, whatever. Not being the best. DC Defenders defense 2-6. Not as good as I thought it was. Seemed better on the highlight reel, but I guess not. And then the Brahmas actually not doing very much at all. So I guess that helps the DC Defenders case. DC Defenders honestly have everything great except maybe they're a fucking quarterback, and I just don't know what it is. So holding up my hands in the air and be like, all right, whatever. Either way, interesting set of games, but at least 2 solid games, and you could argue maybe a third with a good story, and this one exists. So we'll get right into the predictions and power rankings for UFL Week 7. Going into Week 7's power rankings and predictions, you're going to notice a theme here probably for the next couple weeks that I'm not really changing much of anything except for the 3, 4, and 5 spots on these power rankings, because I believe everything else is still pretty solid. And I'm going to explain why. Because we just talked about how the Renegades pretty much have a 0-6 record. With that said, the Renegades play way better than their 0-6 record has them be. I know I may not watch these games all the way through or have my full attention placed on them, but I swear every time I watch the Renegades, it feels like they're a better team than their record shows, and I don't know what's happening to them or what happened to them last season. Let me kind of close up my character because I realize you can't barely see the Brahmas. But it's weird to see the Renegades be so bad in the record-wise. Meanwhile, don't forget, the Roughnecks and the Showboats are both 1-5, so it's not like they're much better record-wise. It's just that they technically are in a better position than the Renegades, which, oh well, even though the Renegades are technically more likely to make the playoffs right now than the Roughnecks and Showboats, I think, technically, whatever. So I'm going to fight for the Renegades to stay at 6 right now. If they lose again, the Roughnecks and Showboats win, or vice versa, whatever, sure, we'll talk about it. But with only a 1-win difference, I don't see that big of a difference in it when they all fucking suck, but the Renegades look way better sucking. Meanwhile, the Showboats are number 8 because they're still probably the worst team in the UFL. They got the Brahmas falling 2 spots. I think these 3, 4, and 5 is so interchangeable. I've gone back and forth. I like the DC Defenders. If you put a gun to my head, I still think the DC Defenders have the most the best chance of these 4 teams of doing well in the playoffs. I'm not saying make it to the playoffs. I'm saying doing well in the playoffs. Brahmas are too sporadic. They go one place or another. Michigan Panthers are too consistently above average. It feels like Michigan Panthers won't be able to do well in the playoffs against any other the 1 and 2 team. It just does not feel like that. But against Stallions, especially with them being in the same conference. DC Defenders and Brahma. DC Defenders feel like a good counter for both the Battlehawks and Stallions, even though they're not really showing it right now. I don't know if they will, but I like the DC Defenders more. I'm giving the Panthers a little bit better credit because they're more consistently good, and I think they deserve those flowers, but I think the DC Defenders would do better in the playoffs, if that makes sense. The Brahmas, again, too sporadic, and again, that's why I fall 2 spots, because these 3 teams are so close to me that when you lose, Brahmas got to fall. Then you get the Battlehawks and Stallions. I think that they're going to square off for. I don't even think it's going to be for the #1 spot. I'll be honest with you. If the Battlehawks win, unless they win in incredible fashion, like 40-8 or something like that, I'm going to give it to the Stallions. Still as #1. Because Battlehawks look great. They're doing great things. But Stallions are so like when you see them play, they just dominate their team. They dominate the other team. They just make them where they can't breathe on defense, and the offense looks amazing. Battlehawks are very, very good. Don't get me wrong. They're up in the rankings for a reason. They're great. They have a good defense and a great offense. I just don't know, even with a win over the Stallions, unless it's incredible fashion, I got to put the Stallions #1 still. So that's a heads up for you. That way, the Stallions do lose, I'm probably still keeping them above the Battlehawks. Just saying. So that's my quick little power rankings. As for my predictions next week, this is actually a rough set of games. The Showboats and Renegades are really close to me. Battlehawks and Stallions, even though I have a clear favorite, I think that one's, I think they're both very, very even in either way it could go. Panthers and Defenders. I think this is a good squared-off game. I think I have a favorite over one, but the other one's just as likely to win. Then you got the Brahmas and Roughnecks, which I think the Roughnecks, if in a bad week or a good week, could win against the Brahmas with a bad week. I don't know. This could either happen anyways, but I still have my predictions this week. I think the Renegades are going to take it. I'm going to believe in the Renegades. If they can get a win over one team, it's the Showboats. I promise you. They are technically favored, so it's not an upset I'm taking because Showboats apparently suck in odds, but we're still taking the Renegades. Next up, I'm taking the Stallions. Stallions are still favored as well, but, I mean, there's a good argument to be made for the Battlehawks. I still like the Stallions. Give me the Stallions this next week. DC Defenders over Panthers. This is my upset technically for the week. Panthers are favored by like 1. I can't bet against DC Defenders. I think they are good. I think they're going to pick up another win and prolong the Panthers' eventual playoff push. I gotta go with the DC Defenders here. I feel good about them. I think their defense can be overwhelming, and their offense can do good enough to make it by. So we'll see. And I'm not gonna bet for the Roughnecks unless they're playing against the Showboats. So Brahmas, go with them. Even though I think they're gonna have a fine week. I think they're gonna do fine in the old grand scheme of things. I just think that they'll probably beat out the Roughnecks either way. I did go 2-2 last week. I don't know what that brings my total out to. Probably should put this on the screen, but oh well. I'll probably have to go through and figure all that out, to be honest with you. I forgot what my record is overall at this point is. But either way, I feel good about these games. I think one good upset and one good away win is going to be fine. This is going to be a good set of games, though, so I'm going to try to tune in for this because I don't have really anything on my weekend ballot, so I'm excited to catch these games, especially the Battlehawks and Stallions, which are on Fox, which sucks because subscriptions beside the point. Without further ado, though, guys, thank you guys for watching, and please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. See you guys later. StraightA out.